President Trump just pulled an unexpected move on Democrats, completely catching them off guard. Citizens of Memphis, Tennessee that hated Donald Trump are now singing his praises, and President Trump shares wise counsel in the Middle East as the Gaza-Israel war is officially over. Plus, I'll have human rights activist Enes Kanter Freedom on. Did you know his father was fired, arrested, and jailed because his son fought for humanity? Thank you guys so much for liking and sharing these videos. Let's jump right in. The U.S. federal government continues to be shut down since the 1st of October, so we are on day 13. This has paralyzed non-essential services, furloughed hundreds of thousands of workers, and disrupted everything from national parks to air travel. Democrats are at fault for all of it. At its core is a bitter funding dispute for fiscal year 2026, with Democrats demanding extensions for Affordable Care Act subsidies to protect Americans' health care, proving just how unaffordable Obamacare really is. Democrats say this is all Republicans' fault. Republicans say you are sabotaging and holding the country hostage. They blame Republicans for refusing bipartisan negotiations, accusing the Trump administration of wielding the shutdown as a weapon to slash Democrat agencies and impose rescissions that undo Democrat priorities. Godoy, that's what happens when the opposite party is in office. Now, Republicans countered that Democrats are hostage takers, hijacking routine funding bills that extraneous demands, forcing the impasse despite GOP control of the White House, Senate, and House of Representatives. They decry Democratic obstructionism as politically motivated cruelty, especially towards vulnerable programs like WIC, and point to agency messages explicitly pinning blame on radical liberals. Now, ultimately, this is on the hands of the Democrats. Though Republicans hold all the levers of power, Senate rules require Democrat votes for passage, and they're simply withholding them to extract concessions on health care, turning a clean continuing resolution into leverage that otherwise wouldn't be there. Now, in a masterstroke, President Trump brilliantly redirected Section 232 tariff revenue to sustain the WIC program for 7 million mothers and children, averting a crisis Democrat shutdown tactics nearly caused. He followed up by tapping $8 billion in prior year defense R&D funds to ensure military pay on October 15th, shielding 1.3 million troops from Democratic gamemanship. The move is in opposition to what Democrats were expecting. So they never expected President Trump to figure out how to keep the military and pregnant women, mothers, and children happy. As tempers flare on Capitol Hill, Trump's ingenuity and clever thinking is keeping Democrats on their back foot. Now, Hakeem Jeffries continues to blame Republicans for the shutdown, even though it's Democrats that won't vote to pass a continuing resolution. Watch as this man continues to embarrass himself on national television.
Well, first of all, we don't view the current bill as anything other than a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the healthcare of the American people.
It's at levels that you guys have already agreed to. A number of Democrats voted for this extension back in March. It's not adding or detracting anything. It's just continuing the levels of spending that currently exist.
Actually, it's not at levels that we agreed to. Democrats strongly oppose this legislation in the House because, in our view, it gut veterans' health care, gut funding for women, infants, and children programming, gut funding for affordable housing, and we know we have a housing crisis in this country. Housing costs are too high. Just to be clear, though, it's not changing current. It's not changing current levels. Nothing's getting cut. It's at levels that you may not like, but it's about extending levels as they currently exist. Fair? Right. We agree that current spending levels are unacceptable.
He just completely fumbles over his words because he knows the continuing resolution is to continue as is. Now they want to tack on an extra $1 trillion. They want money for surgeries. They want money for illegal immigrants to get free health care, to cover failing emergency rooms and hospitals because of illegals overrunning them and then not paying their bills. So this Fox News anchor completely caught him in lies. Your colleagues agreed to this. This is a continuation of something you've already been doing. So quit holding the American people and the government hostage. All right, now a resident of Tennessee who was dead set against President Trump sending National Guard has now had his eyes opened. He's now calling out Democrats while praising President Trump. This video, like many others, is going viral, and it's terrible for the Democrat Party because what it shows is people actually grateful to have a safe city, low crime, the ability to run a business and keep your family safe. Listen to what this gentleman had to say and why it's so damning for the Democrat narrative.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. I think it's true time. I was against pretty much everything that was called these different police units, all this military, all this. I was against, right? Especially when I was the one learning shit about Memphis and how the crime had been down 25% than it has in like hella years and shit. Like Memphis been doing good. We just had the most peaceful summer in a long little time. Just for these folks to still come with this shit. I was against this shit, bro. And then I seen the numbers after the first week of rounding up. These folks then got 16 convicted murderers off the streets in 1 week. Black people. I know there's a lot of Memphis folks somehow all the gone now and they over here, the police pulling over all the good hard-working people. Hey, if that was the case, I'm sorry. But I can't wholeheartedly say they doing a bad thing now. Now that I just seen them numbers, bro. I'm gonna just be honest. And I'm a real Memphis. I love my city. I love once again, where I'm at. As I wait on the motherfucking bus, I'm in the heart of this shit. I love this shit. But I would be lying if I ain't just read them numbers and say, damn, that's a good thing for Memphis. So I'm out of this, y'all. I ain't got no more commentary on this National Guard in here, the police, the over police. I ain't got to say to that, bro, because it's kind of hard for me to say they doing us wrong when they really getting convicted murderers and fellas with guns off the street, bro. I don't, hey, bro. Y'all just be easy, bro. Be easy.
All right. So 16 convicted murderers causing havoc for residents, gang members, Train de Aragua. This guy's looking around going, wait a minute. They're not coming for regular people. They're not coming after black people or people of color. They literally took gangsters, murderers, and killers off the street and made America safe again. This is exactly what we've been saying. But the Democrats, they can't have communities of color, blue cities, believing that there's any way to live better. Now, in any city, blue, red, purple, whatever it is, it's a very, very, very small subset of people that are committing most of the crimes. Most of the robberies are repeat. Most of the kills are repeat. Most of the gang activity is repeat. So you get rid of the bad guys and suddenly life gets really good. Speaking of that, President Trump flew to Egypt and Israel to celebrate the last October 7th hostage being released. There's no more hostages. The war is over. Trump says this is a huge victory for the Middle East, and now it's time to seek peace and use the money that would be spent on weapons to be plowed back into society and education. This is one of Trump's most brilliant speeches. Listen to this.
So instead of building fortresses to keep enemies at bay, the nations of this region should be building infrastructure to weave your commerce closer together, because you've got to compete with the big world out there in commerce now. It's a different kind of competition. Instead of making weapons and missiles, the wealth of this region should flow to schools and medicine, industry, and frankly, the new hot thing, artificial intelligence. It's it's a lot of intelligence they're going to have to be thrown off to pay back these sums of money that they're doing. But that's really the hot one. And I might say that the United States, a year ago, was a dead country. I say it to people. I heard it first from the King of Saudi Arabia. I then heard it from UAE. I heard it from Qatar. I heard it from many other countries. A year ago, the United States of America was a dead country. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. It is the hottest. There's no question about it. In fact, if you go back a year ago, before the election, although once we had November 5th, we became hot because people got it. I would say November 5th was a time that we became really hot. But once you go back a couple of years, if I were in charge and the country was doing what they, nobody was going to ask me to speak. Nobody asked Joe Biden to come up and speak. I guarantee you that. And if they did, he would have turned them down. I promise you. He didn't speak. He didn't speak, and he didn't speak well. But all of the countries in the Middle East, it could have, what we're doing now, it could have happened a long time ago, but it was strangled and set back almost irretrievably by the administrations of Barack Obama and then Joe Biden. It was there was a hatred toward Israel. There was an absolute hatred. The setbacks really started when President Obama signed the Iran nuclear deal. This was a disaster for Israel, and it was a disaster for everyone. And I remember that Bibi Netanyahu came to the United States and worked so hard to try and get Obama not to do that deal. He worked so hard.
He goes on. It's a great speech if you want to see it. Lots of human rights abuse have happened with this Gaza war. He's trying to end the Russia-Ukraine war. There's still lots of human suffering around the world. Today, I've brought a special guest on to help me go through these human rights abuses. I'm joined now by Enes Kanter Freedom, a basketball star who is famous for putting messages on his shoes, getting pushback from the NBA, fighting for human rights all over the world. Enes, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, brother. Appreciate it.
So you are a big believer in human rights. You fight for that. I pointed out last time your name, Enes Kanter Freedom, sounds like Encounter Freedom to me. I want to hear about your new book, but first I want to get your thoughts. Why do you believe the NBA is so silent on human rights abuse in China? Does this come down to money, contracts, or do you believe leaders in the NBA just don't know that the Uyghur population is there and that they're mistreated?
Let me just give you easy stats. More people watch NBA games in China than American population last year. So NBA makes billions of dollars. Think about the jersey sales, the shoe sales, all the contracts and the endorsement deals, TV deals especially. NBA making billions of dollars. Actually, China is even bigger market than America for the NBA. And obviously, everybody knows the dictatorship and the censorship in China. So NBA is never going to come out and say something about the China's human rights violations. When I was talking about all these problems, I actually told many of my teammates, I'm like, guys, listen, I'm not saying that I want to educate you, because I know that you guys are already know about the slave labors and the sweatshops, but it all comes down to empathy. We got to be able to put ourselves in other people's shoes, despite their religion, skin color, or whoever they are, or their background. So unfortunately, NBA will stand up to things until it hits their pocket. For them, money and business are way bigger than morals, values, and principles, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is a tragedy. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. The United States is going through difficult times right now. It seems we're more politically divided than ever. You were raised in an area of the world that's been dealing with divide, whether it's religion or which empire controls what part of the world. As you've studied history and human atrocity, what ideas do you have for us in America where we might be able to find common ground, see each other as citizens versus political enemies?
You know, when I look at America right now, I see the first steps of Turkey. When I was growing up, Turkey was a democratic country, but when Erdoğan took over and it just became a dictatorship, and people are now like very divided. They hate each other. Literally, even like whenever you watch a news channel or something, that they keep attacking each other. When I look at America, unfortunately, it's like the early steps of Turkey. People are divided. They literally hate each other. And you watch one side is always attacking the other side. But people need to understand we only have one America. We gotta figure it out ways to come together as one, like as a team, to make this country better together. Because if not America, the next one on the line is China, and I don't want to live. I don't even want to think about a world that is being run by the Chinese Communist Party. So we gotta wake up before it's too late, because we are only destroying ourselves. So I understand that we have our differences, different political views and different ways to run the country, but like at the end, we are doing it for America, and we gotta wake up before it's too late.
Yeah. The Fed has finally dropped interest rates, and that's great news for American homeowners. Expenses have been a major burden on families. Wages are flat, prices keep climbing, and for many, the only way to make ends meet is to lean on credit cards. But that cycle of high interest debt makes it hard to stay ahead. If you're a homeowner, I want you to call my friends at American Financing. Right now, interest rates have dropped, and many homeowners are seeing options in the low fives. Compare that to credit cards charging rates in the 20s or higher. There is an easy path to see how you can finally put your hard-earned equity to work for you. American Financing can help you pay off that expensive debt, free up your cash flow, and keep your budget under control. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are saving customers on average $800 a month. And if you get started today, you might be able to delay the next mortgage payment. Take control. Call American Financing today at 888-686-8030 or visit americanfinancing.net/Gardner. Again, that's 888-686-8030. Now, I have to imagine as a superstar in the NBA, you go in, you're with men from all over the world. You're with men from all different religious or atheist backgrounds, different skin tones, different childhood.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that? Or do you put those differences aside for the common good of playing the game?
You know, with that one, I want to give actually a huge credit and shout out to my life coach, Mr. Fethullah Gulen. I actually wrote it in the book. When I had a conversation with him for the first time, he said, it doesn't matter what your background is, your skin color, your ethnicity, or whoever you are, we have to leave our differences on the table and trying to find what we have in common. Because we only have one world to live, so we need to make this world better together, and that's the key word, together. So in my locker room, yes, obviously we have so many players from different cultures, religions, skin color, ethnicity, language, but we left our differences in that locker room and went out there and played basketball as a team. That made us better friends. That made us better teammate. You know, the connection is so important. So with that, I mean, it's amazing, because whenever I look at a person, I don't see no color or religion or ethnicity or background or culture. I see human being first. I think that's what our world needs right now. I mean, look at the news. You know, even with not only in our country but literally all over the world. Look at Middle East. Look at all over the world, and people are just fighting. You know, just keep fighting over some things. But like, we just somehow needs to come together, man, because while we are fighting, the innocent people on the streets are the one that getting hurt, you know. um, Thousands of innocent men, women, elderly, kids, babies are being killed right now for what, you know. So that's why we just have to figure it out, especially the ones that are making the decisions behind the table. You know, you cannot be selfish. You're making a decision, but innocent people on the streets are the one that gets hurt. So
Now, when you first started becoming vocal about human rights and the messaging that you were putting out there, my understanding is that your father was arrested, labeled a terrorist. He was jailed. Is he out of jail now? Tell my audience about that story.
So when I started to talk about the corruption scandal happened in Turkey back in 2013, Erdoğan didn't like that because every time I say something, it was becoming a huge conversation. It still is. They gave me a lot of warning. They fired my dad. My sister went to medical school for 6 years and she still cannot find a job. My little brother was playing basketball and he got kicked out of every team. You know, they were getting harassed so much they had to put a statement out there and said, "We are disowning our son Enes." And after that, Turkish government didn't believe that. They sent police to my house in Turkey and they raided the whole house and they took every electronics away, because they wanted to see if I am still in contact with my family or not. They couldn't find no evidence, but they still took my dad in jail for a while. You know, after that, they revoked my passport. They put my name on Interpol list. I am now only allowed to travel to 29 countries in the world. If I travel any other countries, and if that country has an extradition deal with Turkey, they have to send me back. And just recently, they put a $500,000 bounty on my head. And now I have to live with a bounty, you know? So the life is getting difficult, man, but I can take everything. I'm a very mentally and physically very strong person, but I think that the toughest thing that I have to go through what my family is going through, you know? I mean, my dad is out of jail, but I haven't seen my mom or my dad or my sister about 11 years now. And people are keep talking about me losing my career in NBA and losing between like 40 to 50 million dollars, but that was nothing compared to losing my family, you know. Yeah, that's the situation right now over there.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I hope that cleans itself up and you're able to see them. What a tragedy to be forced into. You've got this. Last time I had you on, you were finishing up your book, In the Name of Freedom. It's now come out. It's doing very, very well. Tell me and my audience what the book's about.
The book is about a kid from Middle East, you know, growing up anti-West, anti-American, anti-Semitic in an environment that hates Americans, hates Christians, hates Jewish people. And because of his family was very well educated, they said, enough is enough. You're going to America. I even remember asking my dad, "Do you want me to go to Devil's Nest?" And he said, "Go and see it yourself." So I came to America for the first time, and I realized that everything that I've been learning was just false. And now I'm dedicating myself to literally inspire and educate the young generation, especially in Middle East, that open your eyes, ask questions, get educated, be open to dialogue, have some empathy and sympathy in your heart. So it talks about a kid's journey from an early childhood to being fired from the NBA. So I'm very excited about this book because I do think that it's going to put a lot of hope and empathy in people's heart, and it's going to educate a young generation, I believe.
Okay. Now you said something interesting. So growing up, America was considered the devil's nest. Is that what you said?
Oh my God. So when I was growing up, when I was 9 years old, one day I went downstairs to play with my friends and they were burning American flags. They were breaking crosses. And I remember asking one of them, like, guys, what are you doing? They said, well, we should hate America. We should hate the West. We should hate the Christians. We should hate the Jewish people. I was like, why? They said, well, that's what we've seen on TV. So let me just explain to you first. in some of the countries in Middle East, it's the easiest way to be reelected again if you're a politician. You attack America, you attack the West, you attack Christian and Jewish people. Unfortunately, the base is so uneducated, and every media outlet is run by one of the dictatorships. They believe everything that is coming out of those, politicians' mouth or on TV. So there's a huge propaganda towards America, towards the West. So that's an environment that I grew up in. And I remember they gave me a flag to burn it. They gave me an American flag. They gave me a lighter and they said, burn it. I looked down. I'm like, this is not the right thing to do, man. I threw the flag down. I ran upstairs to my mom. I was like, Mom, my friends are telling me to hate America, hate the West. Like, what do I do? My mom said, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but do not hate anyone before you meet them. So that day I gave a promise to my mom. And I was 9 years old, and literally 8 years later, when I came to America for the first time, I started meeting with Americans, meeting with Christians, meeting with Jewish people for the first time. And then boom, I realized that I was like, wow, everything that I was like learning back in Turkey was just a lie. This doesn't happen in Turkey, but in some of the countries in Middle East, like Iran and some of the other countries, in schools, front of classes, you have an American flag, and if you don't step on that flag, you're not even allowed to attend the class, and you will get bullied rest of your school year by your classmates and by your teacher. So think about an environment that demonized the West and the Americans and the Christian people. So that's why this book is so important, not only for myself, but for millions of kids in Middle East growing up anti-West, anti-Semitic, anti-American, just because of those hate speeches coming from those politicians.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's I've never had an environment where you're so suspicious of another country. I mean, the closest I can think of is America. We're kind of told to hate Russia, right? And I ask people all the time, why do we hate Russia? And they say, I don't know, we just do. It's like I wish we could get past some of that, because personally, I don't like being forced to take sides on the Israel-Gaza war. There's a lot of death there that I don't like. I don't like being forced to take a side on the Russia-Ukraine war. There's a lot of killing and atrocity. I think it's awful. So from what you've been doing, going around speaking with schools and people and government leaders, how do we see each other as children of God, or whether you believe in a higher creator or not, at least as human beings that share this amazing planet?
So it's tough, man. Just like you said, like a lot of people are what I care about is, man, I want people to stop dying. I want people to stop dying in Gaza. I want people to stop dying in Ukraine, Russia, Israel. Like, I want people to stop dying literally everywhere, because human is human. I don't care what their religion or skin color, like whoever they are. I want people to stop dying, period. But whenever I speak to these government officials or or CEOs, companies, organizations, foundations, whatever, they say, listen, you are right. You are 100% right, but there are a lot of politics involved. That's why, man, this is the biggest reason that I'm not into politics right now. Because once you get into politics, you're going to lose 50% of the people. That's why I think that the amazing message of human rights is the only way to can bring people together. I don't care if you're from the far right, far left, you voted for whoever president you vote for, you have to care about human rights because it's above politics, So, I mean, it's sad, man. Like I said, again, people behind the table are the one that giving the orders, but the innocent people on the streets are the one that gets hurt. But I think everyone needs to play their own part. Like what I do, I go around the world and I organize these basketball camps. I bring Muslims, Christians, and Jewish kids together. We literally play basketball. And after the basketball camp, we sit down and we talk about coexistence. And I know that they have a lot of questions about so many things that are happening around the world. But we're trying to find that common ground. God is good. We're all like, Abraham's, children, I will say, this Abrahamic faith that we follow. So I was like, listen, like let's try to find a common ground, because if you want to have a better and brighter future, somehow we have to educate and inspire the next generation.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Enes, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to put a direct link to your book so that people can check that out. The full title is In the Name of Freedom, A Political Dissident's Fight for Human Rights in the NBA and Around the World. My favorite part about talking with you is you always put the word human back into the conversation. I think if we can just see each other as humans, we're going to get a lot further. So I'm going to put that direct link to your book as well as your X account. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.